Despite my stylist helping me clean up as I went, this was the state of my color lab at the end of the day, where I had 2 color corrections at once. Welcome to 2 Girls, 1 Stylist, Part 1. So let's get started with client number 1. Her hair history is a little difficult. She has, about 8 months ago, dyed her hair red with L'Oreal High Lift Red. I think we all know what that box dye looks like. It's really, really, really intensely red. And before that, about a year before that, she had black box dye. And apparently no bleach. So what she wants today is to have something more natural, drag her root down, and to have a cool mocha balayage in there. She wants a very natural, soft, subtle look. But we have all this red to fight through. So that's going to be our color correction today for number 1. The way that I'm starting off today is because she has super, super long hair. Obviously, I'm going to be draping her in a back bib. I'm going to be using a lot of these. Back bibs are honestly the most criminally underrated Framar product. Fight me. They're the best. Framar, please send me some back bibs. I love them so much. I don't know if they're going to do that, but it's worth a try. Anyways, this protects my chair and her back and her hair and everything, and I like to use it as insulation as well later. So these are one of my absolute favorite products for anybody who does a lot of color corrections and things can get messy. So we have essentially 2 ways that we can go about this today, and I'm going to tell you about both ways and about what's the pros and cons for each one and why I chose to do way number 2. Way number 1 is to apply your balayage and your root drop together. I had strongly considered this because of the time saving that it does. You apply your balayage and the root drop all together, but the cons are it's messy, it's unpredictable, and there's potential banding. So what can happen is if you're trying to balayage the ends and you're trying to drop down a toner or root color or whatever through this red area to come down and meet the balayage, is you could end up not going close enough and having a red band in between, or you could overlap, and who knows what that bleach is going to be doing to the color as it processes. You could just still end up with a band anyways, or it's going to be messy and muddy and not a clean result. So I did end up going with option number 2. Despite the fact that we were scheduled for only a color down and not a color corrective balayage, I decided to go with option number 2 anyways, even though it takes more time. That means that my color corrections today are going to merge into each other, and I'm going to have to be really good at my scheduling, or I'm going to have to get some help from my stylists. So option number 2 is to apply your toner all over, rinse it, and then balayage the hair. So the pro is this is neater when it comes to those 2 colors combining, and you essentially kind of get rid of the red and then can reapply a balayage. So it makes it a little bit more predictable in that way as well. The con is that it is slower, it takes more time, and there's more to break through. Instead of just me putting bleach right on this red color right here, this very old red, and hoping that the bleach can go full power through this red and break through more of it, potentially getting us to a lighter level, we're also breaking through a toner. However, when a toner is super, super fresh in someone's hair, it is super weak and susceptible to washing out or bleaching out really easily. And that's why I always tell my clients to give their hair 2 to 3 days before their first wash anyways after a color appointment. But if you color the hair and then immediately bleach on top of it, it hasn't really oxidized and settled into the hair as much as if you had given it some extra time, a couple of days to settle in, for that cuticle to seal over that hair and to allow it to have a stronger, longer last. So the issue here is that I'm concerned with, though, is because of what color I'm putting on top of the red. The issue is if I put this color on top of the red and I bleach through and I end up with this color lingering through with the red, that might not be a good situation, because if you know how the color wheel works, the opposite of red is green. So for our formulation today, we have Schwarzkopf 4-13. So that's like a dark blue and green tone that I'm putting right on top of this red color here. And you can probably see by the way that I'm applying it is I'm not really applying it to the scalp. I'm just kind of brushing it through from wherever I see the red and an inch-ish higher. And I'm coating all of the hair all the way down to the ends. Now 3 is green in Schwarzkopf, and that's the opposite of red. And if you put in just the right amount of green against red, you're going to neutralize the red and make it more of a brown color on the level that it's at. If you put in too much green, you're getting green hair. And if you don't put in enough, you still have red hair. So that's the difficult part of this with this formulation, is it's just kind of seeing what you get when you're putting in a level 4 with green onto, I would call this maybe a level 6 cherry red. It's a bit of a risk, but it's not the biggest risk in the world. But I am a little nervous about to see what's going to lift up when I balayage on top of this green color that I put on top of the red. Now, what you'll also notice is that this color isn't covering super fast. If you're dropping down a bunch of levels, you'll notice that a toner is going to start changing the color of the hair really fast. But I've got some faith in this one because it's been a few minutes and the color isn't changing super quickly, which means that these two colors are battling it out. And we're going to see who's the winner at the end of this once the full oxidization and processing time is finished. And that's about 20 minutes. But if you are fighting tones, you should hope for a slower result with your toner if you're trying to keep something on level and not go too far overboard with your toner color that you have in there to fight the color that's currently in the hair. Because if it's on the slower end, it means that there's an equal amount of red versus green that you have in the hair, and that's hopefully going to neutralize to a brown color. Now, if I'm going to choose one side or the other to remain on, I would rather this remain more of a reddish tone than to go too far onto the green side. You know, we're going to go for like maybe a Coca-Cola brown if we can't do mocha brown today, you know? So just as I said, this is a gorgeous color. When I'm looking at it, I can still see a hint of warmth, which means the red is still kind of in there. But at first glance, this looks like a natural color. So we really did get a good overall result with that first toner. And I checked in with the client and she is totally fine with seeing a little bit of that red in her hair left over. She knows that there's a high potential that there could be a residual red tone in our hair today because of what she had in her hair. And she was like, I just want to see us get closer to what we want. So before we get started with the balayage, I'm going to be doing the butterfly cut that she asked for, which is essentially face framing and long layers because I want to apply the color to the cut. Our balayage mixture is Schwarzkopf clay and blonde me at a 1.5 to 1 ratio with 30 volume mixed to like a Greek yogurt consistency, maybe a little bit thicker than that because we're going to be hand painting today. I'm going to show you guys how I do my hand painting. So we've fully dried her hair and now we're going to be separating it into 3 horseshoe sections. She's got one up at the top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom. And I'm going to be subsectioning these out for my panels that I'm going to be doing hand painting balayage to. So what you'll need for this is a power painter brush, a paddle, and a rat tail comb, and obviously some kind of back bib or foil to keep everything neat and clean. But I'm going to be showing you only like one side of each of my pairings because otherwise that would just waste time. As you guys can see, I'm doing a decent amount of back combing, and what I'm going to be doing also is not really leaving out sections for depth because the back combing is so intense, but also because we have such low contrast with our color today. Our goal color is to have her level 4 blend into a level 5.5, 6. So we really need to put in a lot of this lighter color, and we need to put it in bold sections for it to even be visible at all. But we still want to have some blend. We don't want to see where the color starts. We just want to see the gradual blend from the darker into the lighter. Little trick there, as you can see, I do sometimes like to flip over the panel and check that underneath is super blended, and sometimes I'll apply to the underneath side. But every single panel that I apply a hand-painted balayage to, I check underneath because the edge of this board that I'm using can create lines in the hair, and that's what we do not want to have. This is all about having a seamless blend, and the line of that paddle board can just totally ruin that with one quick little motion. So I always like to start with back combing, and I just push up very gently. as much hair as I possibly can with some of these sections. If you're pushing more hair up towards the scalp when you do back combing, you are creating a softer, more seamless blend, and you are allowing more of the hair, when it gets pulled back down and detangled, you're allowing more of that darkness to stay in the hair. So if you want a brighter color, you want a brighter effect, you need to back comb less of the hair away so that you brighten more of the hair in the foil or, hand painted out. But I'm actually trying to push away a decent amount of that hair because we don't want to have like super solid looking ends. We want dimensional looking ends, and pushing away more of those hairs is going to allow us to have more of that depth and darkness than you think. Now, I was saying to my client, because this is just too funny, she's like looking a little bit nervous when I was painting in these big panels. This is a trust the process. You always have to talk to your clients about what they're seeing in the chair, and always comfort them and reassure them that what they're seeing is not going to be terrifying looking once it's washed out and toned. This is something she's never seen before on her own head, and I was like, I know this is looking really, really insane and really crazy, but I promise you this is going to be super subtle and soft. Now I'm doing the front, and I didn't capture a good looking spot here for how these front two pieces are going, but I'm putting them in a foil because I do want them to be a little bit brighter than everything else, and they're going to be higher up, and they're going to be around her face, and I just want to protect her face at all costs. So I am using a foil and just gently folding it over. I'm not trying to like insulate it too much or anything, but with this formulation being a 30 volume and the heat of the face and being up higher and closer to the front, it is going to process a little bit lighter and a little bit faster, and like that's totally okay. That's what we want. It almost gives like a little mini money piece, but again, the tonality of the color that we're going for with this this mocha brown color, it's going to be a very soft and subtle look, even with the money piece being bold like this. So I'm just foiling out a little bit, back combing every piece, and for these two front pieces, putting in a little bit of foil, and I will be also putting in foil for the top few pieces just to keep them warm and to let them insulate and catch up with the rest of the hair. So now let's move on to our middle section of the horseshoe. So now that we've done the bottom, you can see that, well, you can't see it, but what I've done is I've created a U shape that goes up higher around the face and lower around the back. Now with this chunk right here, I'm taking an absolutely massive piece and super back combing it. I'm also not going to be painting up super high, and I'm not going to be saturating all the way through to the ends. I'm more so painting on one side, and I am coating the ends of the back and the front of this panel, but I'm not really trying to get through it too much because this is going to be one of my less noticeable pieces, but it's going to be allowing me, because I am still balayaging this, it's going to allow a seamless blend all the way through from front to back. This is creating a teardrop shadow on the top of her head. If you look at her head from a bird's eye perspective, from the top down, you're going to see the blonde coming up higher around the face and lower down around the back of her neck and head. And what this allows for is a really, really low maintenance look overall. She can grow her hair for as long as she wants to. This is never going to start looking like it really needs to be done or has to be done. The only thing she's going to want to update is just a toner refresh every once in a while, but she's not going to need to have her balayage redone. Some balayages grow out, and because you bring it too high up around the entire head, when the back starts growing out and her curl pattern starts showing, or her parting goes down back too far, it opens up this like big black hole in the back of the head. So for some new stylists or anybody who's like new to hair coloring, try to leave a little bit more room around the apex of the head, the back of the head, when you're doing services that you want a little bit more time between touch-ups, because this allows for a softer grow around those areas where someone's cowlick or their parting can get in the way and open things up and reveal a big black hole in their head. That's not what we want to see. Is we want to see a soft, gentle transition from root color to the balayage color that we apply. And so this was the whole middle section. The middle section was intended to be back combed much heavier than the underneath section. And what that allows for is the underneath is going to have a little bit of a stronger pop of color, while the middle is soft. And this back piece right here, the apex, is being done very, very similarly to the middle section, because I want to have, again, that very soft apex of the head piece. I'm bringing up the color quite high because I want to blend in that color from the black to the red to this kind of browny ends. I want to do my best to blend, and that's why I'm also not bringing up every single piece to the exact same height, because I'm a little nervous of like potential banding that you can get with this, or not real banding, but I don't want to have separation of color that's obvious. I want to have everything be as blended and seamless as possible. That's the main goal here. So I've sectioned it away, this top horseshoe section. This is where her parting is, and her parting goes right down the middle of it. And as I get closer to the front, I am taking a thinner section. I am pushing down the roots that I am backcombing closer and closer and closer to the scalp so I can get higher up on that strand of hair. And I'm saturating it more all the way through and more heavy. And what this is going to allow for is a super duper soft blend, but we're going to be bringing up those little highlights up pretty decently high. You can see how much product I'm putting on that hair, and I am icing it like it's a cake. That's the thing with clay lighteners, is that they need to be applied like an icing. And you don't want to skimp on your application here, because you want to have the wetness of the lightener. I hate saying wetness. You want to have the wetness of the lightener, keep the hair moisturized, and you want to keep that bleach going, because if bleach is wet, it's still working. If bleach is dried out, it's not working anymore. And now every bleach brand is a little bit different. Some of them do kind of time out after a while, but in general, if you haven't reached your time limit on the bleach, if it's dried out, it's stopped working. And so with a clay lightener like this, you want to really coat it up. You want to leave a ton of product on the hair so it stays wet and it keeps lifting, because a clay lightener is a slower lift lightener. It's a less lift lightener, but I have mixed this with Blonde Me as well. So what that's doing is it's giving us kind of like the best of both worlds. It's giving us the consistency and the gentleness of a clay lift, but it's also giving us the little extra power and a little extra speed of the Blonde Me powder. So now I'm one piece away from the front, and I am taking an even thinner section than I did from the one I just did, pushing down more of that root, and you can see how much root I'm pushing down too. This is still allowing me to have a lot of that darker color left over. It's just going to be super, super soft. And this is how I'm applying all the way up to the front. And yeah, we're just going to essentially cut to the chase now, because you guys have seen enough of me hair painting. So let's go on to the next part. So now that I've finished applying her color, I'm going to check my first couple of foils here to see how much they've lifted. And look at how red that is. Girl, look how red you are. If this was orange, this would be a perfect time to put in a Drag Race quote, but of course it's red instead, so that ruins it. I'm just reapplying a little bit of lightener here because I want that to bump a little bit more. But I can see here that we are not getting rid of red today. We're gonna have to work with red, and we're gonna have to tone against red as well, because we are not bleaching past the red. This is at like a level 6-7, and normally when you lift a level 6-7 virgin hair, you're gonna have strong orange tones, maybe even gold. You are not going to be having red tones at this lightness, but this hair has been stained. Its cuticle is fully stained. So if you have red dye in your hair, please keep in mind, this is what it can look like if you bleach it. You're gonna have pink or fire engine red hair. Now, what I'm using this back bib for is to keep everything wet and moisturized by folding it up and kind of just letting the bleach cling on to that. Now it's time for client number 2, you guys. This client is sitting in the chair as the other client is processing. As you can see, this client has processed for 30 plus minutes, and she is super, super orangey, pinky red. It's a weird salmon color, to be honest, and that's just a really fun one to formulate with, because who knows what's going to happen. Is that hair going to drop all of our toner? Is it going to be super porous and overdone? Who knows? Well, let's go back to client number 2. We're going to be lifting her natural root with an L44 and Pastelifier mix and 30 volume, because her natural, showing up really good on the camera here, it's naturally like a 4-5. It's a pretty dark 5. And we are trying to lift her root as high as possible with this mixture. L44 is a high lift beige. And the beige has just a little bit of control for some warmth, but not a ton. This high lift color is going to lift her hair as high as anything really honestly will. And the Pastelifier is in there to add extra ammonia for an extra bump and lift. And the 30 volume is, of course, to reveal a lot of her natural pigment and to lift her as high as possible. This formula is so crazy strong, I do not recommend it for people who are just starting out in hair. This formula is intended for us to see how light we can lift her base naturally, and we'll go from there. Essentially, we're trying to get her to like a level 8, 9, and we might need to go down from there with our gold color, but I'm not going to tell you guys the gold color quite yet. So we're just seeing what her natural underlying pigment is going to lift up to with the strongest possible color we have, because we're trying to stay away from bleach for the next little while. She's been bleached for the last like 3-4 years at least, and she's ready to try something new. So this has to stay on for a minimum of 40 minutes. I think we're leaving it on for 50 today, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like soon. But it lifts fast, because this is what it looks like after I've finished applying, and it only took me 10-15 minutes to apply. Look at how much orange you can already see. This is lifting her very, very quickly. After we're done lifting her roots, we are going to be coloring all of her hair and trying to match that to the root. But for this root color, we're going to be bagging her up, because that's going to keep her head warm, which is going to allow her root to lift even more. And it's going to keep the fumes at bay, because we were both giggling here. It's so intensely strong, the fumes in this color. We're both choking here. Do not do this in a badly ventilated space. Do not use a high lift color in your bathroom. Do this out in the wild, outside, so you can breathe fresh air, because this is so bad for your lungs. Anyways, back to client number 1. Thank the Lord for my stylist cat, who helped me wash and detangle my client while I was applying the roots for my second client. This is the color we ended up with today, and I didn't capture any film of me applying the toner, but the toner today is 1/2 ounce of 5-4, which is a beige, 1/2 ounce of 612, which is an ash, like a light and a dark blue, and 1/4 ounce of 4-33, which is just straight dark green. It's insane. It's very scary. And 1 1/4 ounces of 6-0, which is going to provide some balance. A 6-0 is a 6 natural. It's a brown. And that brown is going to provide some balance to this whole color, and it's going to prevent those ash tones from making everything muddy in areas that aren't quite as warm in her hair, because we had a really, really patchy look. If you remember what she came in with, her hair was super patchy all over, which means it's going to lift patchy. So in order to save the day with that, you do need to have some balancers and some warm colors and some naturals to fill the hair. Now, time for the reveal. Here is her final result after that toner. We washed her, dried her, and styled her, and she's obsessed with it. We are so happy with this result. Let's do our 2 stars and a wish for client number 1. This is my self-critiquing skill. My wish, let's start with that. I wish I added a little bit of 4-33 to the first inch or 2 of her red roots. I feel like that would have just done the tiniest bit more of a deep blend for the roots to that reddish middle area. But I feel like we really, really controlled the red today. There's obviously still going to be some red in her hair long term with something like that. That L'Oreal High Lift does not ever want to come out. It's got such intense staining properties to it, which if you want to keep red, it's fantastic. If you want to get rid of it, you got to come see me. And you're still going to have a little bit of red in the hair. Anyways, that's my first client. After I finished editing this video, I got a message from my client, and she wanted to send me some selfies to use for the YouTube and the Instagram. And guys, look at how cute this looks on her. It looks amazing. Way less red in regular lighting and indoor lighting than it does in my salon at night. So I just wanted to show you what she sent me and this video to show how her hair moves. Oh, it's so shiny and soft. I love it. Yay. Back to client number 2. This is the reveal of her lift for her roots. We're about to do the rest of her process, but you're gonna have to wait a week, because 2 girls, 1 stylist is a 2-part series, and that's where we're gonna continue on with my second client. So remember to like and subscribe, and don't be angry with me for edging you. This is just part of it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment below, or, freak out at me in the comments below. That's totally fine. Anyways, love you guys. Remember to like and subscribe, and follow for next week's continuation of this 2-part series. Bye.